I'm going to ask you to bear with me a little bit here today. My voice is a little off. There was an event yesterday that I was pretty excited about, so anyway, I'm excited to talk about this, and I'm going to ask you to do something with me. All right. First of all, I want to start this morning by saying something to you that really that from my heart. I mean this. I want to say, and if I haven't told you this lately, I love you. I love you. I love you as a church. I love you as the people of this church. I love what this church stands for, what this church is doing. I love what's happening in your lives. I love to hear the stories of how God is at work. I love to hear all of that, but I truly want you to know, thank you. I appreciate that. So today, I want you to dream with me. Will you do that, church? Will you dream with me? And some of you, this may be your first Sunday, and if this is your first Sunday, then this is not necessarily not necessarily what we do every Sunday when it comes to what we're talking about. And this campaign is something unique that we've been doing for the last 3 years, and it really has changed who we are in a lot of ways, because we've been able to be active. You saw pictures before Matt came up here of just the things that we did last year. And honestly, we could have put a lot more up there. For the time element, we had to spare the time there. But I can tell you that there have been so many opportunities and lives that have been changed as a result. Now, I look at this group of people, and I know there'll be another group of people, and I know there are people who are watching who consider this their family, and we're glad that that's the case. We are excited that you would want to make this your people. But I want to ask a big question here this morning, and I want to start with this because I want us to dream about what the church really is. We've been talking about what it is to be a follower of Jesus. Then we talked about what it was to really ask this big question: what does love require of me? But now it's time, as we come together, it gives us an opportunity now to act on this in a way. And I'm going to say this. Our world is in a world of hurt. It's hard to even think about it. But I got to tell you this, I believe that the hope and the answer and the excitement and the joy and everything that is at the foundation of what the church is really, truly the answer. Why? Because we're serving someone who has done amazing things. And so, everybody here, we're going to talk like family today. We're going to talk about dreaming, about what we should be. So I ask you this big question. What does it really mean to be the church in our world today? What does it really mean? What does it look like? Is it different than it was a few years back? Well, it definitely has taken on a different look in a lot of ways. And is it meant to be something that brings this feeling of excitement and joy? Is it meant to be something that really makes a difference in the world? Is it? I mean, we're definitely a different group of people than we were 3 years ago in our own lives, but also as a church family. And so for that to be the case, I want to kind of define this for you. I want to try to define it in a way that will help you to understand. So I want to put this definition up here. First of all, I believe the church, what does it mean to be the church? A group of Jesus followers partnering in a local area to make a difference. Because there's a lot of local churches, right? You could go to any number of good, solid local churches. The point is that if you feel that God has put you here and that these people around you are family, that you give me the opportunity to be a part of the leadership team, you are together trying to move forward with what God is wanting to do with your own life. You're wanting to get past some of these things and trying to adjust to a new normal. See, as Jesus followers, the idea of partnering is kind of foreign right now. The idea of people coming together and not letting anything divide them or cause issues or problems. And so we're really wanting to see us partner together in a local area. If you've ever noticed, the name of the church is Fair Creek. So we're in Fairborn and we're in Beaver Creek, and we have kind of this mixture of two communities. And it's important for us to consider that and what we do in those communities. And yes, there's a greater Dayton area, but honestly for us, most of us are right in this area. Some of you may live beyond Beaver Creek, or you may live beyond Fairborn. That's fine. We're glad you're here. But the whole idea is partnering in a local area. And when you think of partnering, we're going to talk about really what that looks like. But to make a difference, I don't know about you, but I don't want to just exist. I remember thinking about this years ago and thinking about it when we were trying to make decisions as a church family years ago. And I thought to myself, it felt at times like we were just mannequins, just mannequins standing and posed, but we weren't going anywhere. We weren't doing anything. Quite honestly, that's why I'm so thrilled about Be Rich, because it gives us an opportunity to actually partner together to make a difference. But it even goes further than this. The definition is because of his message and mission, because of Jesus. If we're truly his followers and he's leading us, then we are together able to make a difference because of him. He's the reason why. He's done so much. And I've got to ask the question. Last week I asked for feedback and everything, but I don't mind if you banter with me a little bit here. Has Jesus done anything for you? Really? Yesterday I was with 80,000 people. I watched a team that I love, all right? I watched a team that I love win yesterday. And I watched those 80,000 people cheer for their side or back and forth, and they were so loud. and quite honestly, our team was traveling, and so we had this large contingency, bigger than I thought we would have. And I thought to myself, these people are so fired up and excited. And I got to tell you, close to the end of the game, the clock's ticking down. I knew we were going to win. And all of a sudden, I got a little choked up. And it was not because my team was winning, but because I just thought to myself, what would it be like if the church were like this? If every time we uttered the name Jesus Christ, that people just stood to their feet and cheered or fell to their faces and bowed down. Think about it. We just kind of go through motions at times. I don't want us to do that, all right? I don't want us to do that. I want us to think of his message and his mission as something that it changes everything, changes the way we do everything in our life. So I take you to this, and this is an important part of this. When you maybe have been a part of church life in your, maybe it's been here, maybe it's been at another church, maybe you've just moved here, but you maybe remember the term church membership, okay? And you know what church membership is about. People come along and they'll say, yes, I want to join the church, and they become a part of the church. They'll say, yes, I believe what the church believes, and yes, I'll do these things with the church, and I'll participate and be a part of it. The problem is that over the last few years, the church membership has become kind of complacent. It's almost an apathetic state of mind. Yeah, I'm a member of that church. It doesn't really have any emphasis. It actually gives us kind of a feeling that maybe we're kind of a false feeling of engagement with the church. And so I'd like you to think of it a little differently this time. Maybe not just a member, but a partner. A member has benefits, right? You get benefits when you're a member of something. AAA. Anybody AAA members here? Great, I'll know who to call when my car breaks down. And the idea of being a member there is because you pay and then you get something, right? You pay a membership fee and then you get something from it. You get maybe a long list of things, and the more you give, maybe the more benefits. And quite honestly, saying or thinking the church is that way is a wrong approach. The idea is that we're partners. Partners should be completely different. Maybe we should think of it this way. Maybe we should think of it a little different. If we were to think that being a member, and let me illustrate it with the two words. You think of a member being someone who's a part of a church, but then you think of a partner as somebody who's like linking arms with the next person and the next person. Imagine what would happen, and I want you to dream with me just a little. What would happen if this room full of people here this morning, if this room full of people all were able to link arms, and I mean figuratively, but maybe, I don't know. Here's the idea. If we were to link arms together and we were to give ourselves completely to making sure that we were all about his mission, we were all about his message, imagine what could happen. Now you might say, I've heard this before, this is all important. But I want to tell you, there is not a more crucial time in the history, I believe, of church history than right now. Because worldwide, there are things happening and occurring that God is actively doing in places. And we need to be a part of that. We need to be a part of that. And just because other places are doing certain things, we need to be doing what God has called us to do. So I want to take you to the verse. I want to take you to the verse that really tells us why we do be rich. It's 1 Timothy. And Timothy was a young pastor. Paul was the apostle who wrote to him and told him and trained him and explained to him what he needed to do and how he needed to do it. This is what he said. Paul was telling Timothy, this young pastor, command them to do good. The idea of commanding really is lead them. Lead them or direct them. Give them the directions they need to be able to do this. And so he was telling this young pastor, make sure you bring the people, the family together, and that you focus on some things. Tell them some things to do. Tell them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. You see, that was not the way it was back then. When this was written, when it was written to the young pastor, Timothy was looking at a group of people that were pretty much focused on just taking care of themselves. And we're not talking about a time of wealth. If you think that inflation has hit you hard, imagine having to just figure out where the next meal would come from. Many of these people were going through that. That's the kind of world it was. And so it was very difficult for them to actually think about being rich in good deeds and to be generous and willing to share. Very, very difficult times. And so when we look at this and we think of the idea of being rich, we break it down. So let me show you. It's like this. Be rich is we think of giving, serving, and loving. All right, these three things that it all comes together on. And today I want us to look at a passage of Scripture and focus in on the idea of what it is to give. I will tell you that many churches, and maybe your experience with this, that money may be a focus. Maybe you've been burned by a church that has asked for money, or they asked you to give money and you gave it and then they used it for something completely different. I don't know. Maybe you've watched people on television, TV evangelists that maybe have requested money or wanted money. But the idea of what God wants us to do with our finances and our money, and quite honestly, I think this is maybe one of the most important times to think about this, given the fact that we are looking at record inflation and we're looking at issues that are coming up and difficulties. And I want to make sure that you hear my heart. I'm not here to just try to get money from you randomly. This is about a relationship you have with God, about something that is a crucial part of your life. Let's face it, money is a part of everything we do. And unfortunately, it motivates a lot of what we see going on in our world. So, if we think of be rich, we think of give, serve, and love. Let's say it together, can you? Be rich means give, serve, love. All right, very good. So I want to take you to Matthew's gospel, and I want to show you some practicalities. All right, I'm going to walk right through this. I'm not going to take long explanations of this. It kind of speaks for itself. This is a part of the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus was preaching, and he gave us this. Matter of fact, of all of the parables, it's an amazing thing to think about. But if you look at what Jesus was teaching and how he taught about money, he talked about money more than he did any other topic, collectively. He talked about how important it was to have a balance of what you did in your life with your money. So this is what the verses say. It's in chapter 6 of Matthew. And Matthew catches Jesus' heart when he starts to preach this message. Jesus said, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal." All right? This is just what happens. This is reality. All right? I can ask the question, you can put any name or anything you want to on moths and vermin. To the people who this was written to, this was the big thing. You collected your stuff and you had to be careful because moths and vermin would get in and eat it up or ruin it, all right, destroy it. And so for us, in our world, the way we live, a lot of that has to do with just our material possessions, the things we have. All right? You ever bought a car and then you get the first scratch on it? You know what I'm talking about, right? You buy that car and it's like you're so excited about it and you do all kinds of things to polish it and make sure it's clean, and then somebody either opens a door on it or, worse yet, you back into something, you know? Or a rock comes up and hits it and there's a little chip in the paint. Oh, you know? That's a moth or a vermin, okay? Kind of get the idea? I mean, the things in this life are going to be very temporary. Things that we would hope that you'd want it to be. I remember when I first put in some stuff around our house, and now I'm looking at it now and I'm thinking, good grief, man, it looks old. We need new stuff now. Do we? You know, when I look at this, no, it's just, it's what happens. Things age. So I have to be careful. This idea of treasures, the things that I have invested in, all right, the things that I have. But then it goes on. He says, don't do that, but on the alternative, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. So the idea is that you can invest in things that are going to be much more valuable, they will last longer, they will have an eternal investment or return on investment for any of us. So he says, compare. Which one would you rather have? The one where it's, destroys, or the one that doesn't? And he makes it very clear. Then he takes you to this verse. He says this statement. Jesus makes it clear. He said, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The idea of your treasure, it means what you love. All right? What you treasure, what you've invested in, what you have put yourself into, the things that you're wanting to make valuable, the things you've made valuable in your life. He says that will show where your heart is. That will show what's really inside. It will show how you really feel when you think of it from a standpoint. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Now, the verses continue on, and they kind of take a shift here. All right? It's a big one. It's like, why is that? And many people get hung up on this. They'll see this part, and they read this, and then it's like it takes a different path, and it's like, I don't understand why the Bible does this. Why does it talk about a certain thing here, and then it seems like Jesus just upends the whole message and goes off on a rabbit trail? But he doesn't at all. All right? Look at what it says. The eye is the lamp of the body. See what I mean? It's like, what? Why? Where did this come from? If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. Okay? So if what you're looking at is good stuff, if what your eyes are seeing and how you're looking at things a certain way, it actually is healthy. It's a good thing. It makes you full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? All of a sudden, he makes this shift. He says, see, when you start looking at other things and you see something, it's like, okay, some of you just got a new phone this year, all right? iPhone 13, right? You got it. It's got a great camera on it. Got all these cool things that it does, It pretty much will, get up in the morning and make your breakfast for you. It's so great. But iPhone 14 just came out, right? And isn't it true? It's like, I got to have that. I got to have that one. Why is it every time I buy this, and it's like, I don't know how to do it. Our eyes tend to look at other things and we see them and we say, wow, I wish I could have that. Or I wish that's what we really need. If we just had that, that would be much better. See? And it starts to make us unhealthy because we're not satisfied with what we have. We start wanting something else. We get focused on completely the wrong idea, the wrong things. I'll just tell you, this is true. Money is a test. Money is a test. And actually, God, when he was speaking through the prophet Malachi, he even said, you know what? You can put me to the test on this. If you just follow my principles, you can see that actually what I have said about money and how to live your life and what you value, you can trust it completely. So God actually says, put me to the test. It's a crazy thing to think about. And it's difficult sometimes for us to even think because money and the possessions we have are concrete. They're right there in front of us, right? They're right here in front of us. And so we have these things that we've invested in or we've purchased or we've bought, and it becomes part of us. But I want to show you what Matthew and what Jesus actually said and what Matthew captured. We go back to the passage and it says, no one can serve two masters. See, if you're trying to love everything you have and try to follow and love Jesus and follow his principles, it can be very difficult because many times if we are making the things of our life, our possessions, our money or whatever, we start to make those things more important. When they don't make us happy, then our life falls apart. It causes problems in our relationships, our marriages. They start to fall apart. There starts to be conflict. There starts to be issues with your boss because you think he owes you more. I'm working, why am I not getting? All of a sudden, when we have this master, and so money is really this test. It tests us. It puts it in front of us to make us think about what it is we're really making important in our lives. He says, either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. It's hard to have these two affections in your life. Because God, when he is asking, and Jesus especially, when he was preaching this and sharing it, he was giving us this picture. And those people that were hearing it for the first time, and even Matthew hearing it for the first time, and he's writing, and remember what Matthew did for a living? He was a tax collector, so money was like the big thing for him. He was cheating people to get money, and then all of a sudden he gets confronted by Jesus to give up all of that and to follow him. And then Matthew actually found real meaning in his life. Why? Because he knew that he couldn't be devoted to both things. He couldn't have both things. Now you might say, Greg, are you telling me that money is not a good thing and that I shouldn't have any? Well, I think we have to have the perspective of what Jesus says. He says, you cannot, let's go back to the verse if we can. You cannot serve both God and money. Why is that? Because one leads you down a certain path of wanting more. And actually, both of them do. If you have a relationship with God in a way where you are gaining from that relationship with him, and the closer you become, you want more of that. But if there's something that stands in the way that's become more important, then what happens? It all falls apart for us. So now, I go to this statement. Money can add meaning to life. All right, it can. All right, it can actually make your life better. You can actually be able to pay your bills on time or make sure you have no debt, or you can take care of your children or your family. You can actually, maybe even take time to spend with your family or whatever. All those things are important. Hear me. I'm not saying it's wrong to have money or to make a lot of money. If you're in one of those positions in your life where it's like, I've been blessed. I've had so much. It's just over and over again. It seems like everything I was a part of, God has given me more. That's fine. Okay? It's all good. But when that becomes the focus of life, you got to remember, money can add meaning to life, but it's not the meaning of life. And it can cause us to have this approach which actually kind of blinds us to just actually seeing what God is doing in our life and how he's provided it, how he's given it. That was Jesus' point of the message. And so here's basically the statement. I just say it straight up, and it's important for us to hear this. If you haven't given Jesus access to what you have, he doesn't have you. If you haven't given him access to what you have and what you make, your money, your possessions, all of that. It's funny, I purchased a truck some years ago, and I had saved up money to do it and to get this truck. And now, it's become like the tool. Everybody wants to borrow the truck, Anybody out there have a truck and you've had to loan it to somebody? You know what I'm talking about, right? And it's great, because I have tried to keep my eyes on the fact that that's really not my truck. All right, that truck belongs to Jesus. And so if I'm going to try to do it, and every time I get my mind back on, that's my truck, and how, whatever. Now, that truck's got a lot of miles on it now. And it's been down the road quite a bit. And I try to take care of it and everything. But whenever it becomes more important to me than really what I think of when I realize Jesus gave me that so that I might be able to help other people, move things, take care of things, whatever. Now, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to get a ton of email after this. Greg, I'm moving next week. Could you come and help me do? Yeah. So I'll do the best I can, all right? I can tell you this, that when Matthew caught Jesus' words on this one, this is what it tells you, because this is what happens when we make money more important. He says this in the next verse. He says, so do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? Quit worrying about these things. Don't do that. And he goes on, he says, for the pagans, the people who completely don't even know, they run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. I mean, everyone is needing something to eat, and everyone is needing something to wear. Everyone's needing those things. But your heavenly Father is never going to leave you to where you don't have access to where those needs can be met. Matter of fact, that's what the church and the partnering together is meant to do. I mean, I want you to think about this. I want you to imagine a world where the church is considered an essential part of every community. Can you imagine that? Matter of fact, I would want people in this community, these two communities, to think of us if they had a need, or if the government or the schools or someone, if they had a need, they would think of us. And then think about a world where people skeptical of what we believe are envious of how well we treat each other and amazed at how well we treat them. Wouldn't that be something? I mean, imagine what that would be like. But I can tell you this, when we get so focused on the things of our own life, it's hard for us to think about other people's needs. And he's saying, don't do this. Don't think about all these needs that you think you have and all this. Imagine a world where people went, or they want the message of Jesus to be true before they even believe it is. Why? Because of how we are a part of this and what we've made important. I take you to a few things, but the last part of this verse is amazing. Matthew 6:33 says, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. This is the kind of kingdom that's different. This is the kind of kingdom that shows up in a way that when people look and see what's going on, they go, I want to be part of that. I want that in my life. I want to be part of that. I want to make sure that I am doing everything possible to give my life toward that. I don't want anything to be more important than this kingdom. And what's he say? Seek first his kingdom, God's kingdom. The whole idea of what it is to serve him and the whole idea of what's there. Think back in your own life what God has done for you. where could you have been? Where could you be without him right now? What would your life be if you didn't have him in your life? Imagine that. And then you think to yourself, okay, he's done so much for me. I want to turn around and make sure that I'm giving everything I've got, everything that I am, everything that constitutes anything that I have energy to do with. I want it to all be toward this kingdom, to have an impact on that kingdom. And it's funny, the promise is clear. If you can focus on the kingdom, then your needs are going to come into perspective. Okay? You're not going to find yourself going, well, I need this, and what about me? If you focus on the kingdom, all of a sudden everything gets good. You start to think about the things that really he's focused on and wanting to do. So I think it's this kind of kingdom, all right? I think it's a God and others first and me second kind of kingdom. Think about that, right? God and others first and me second. If I start to think about God and others first, imagine the impact the church has. All right? The church is not this building, okay? The church is not this building. Matter of fact, we have this little thing going on in staff where we are trying to change language best we can. A lot of us have grown up in church, and so it's easy to say, where are you going? Going to the church, talking about or referring to the building, you know? That would mean I'd have to go to everybody's house, right? You know, if I was really going to the church. No, the concept here is that we're the church, all right? You don't really go to church. You are the church. See? And that's what makes the difference. I thought that it would be helpful if I gave you some practicalities. How can I actually do this? Right now, you might be saying, well, Greg, that's great, but man, we're strapped. I don't know how we could ever, do anything else. We just don't have money to give or to interact with the kingdom. We don't have any of this. It's going to be tough for us to even do a Be Rich offering. Or you might say, no big deal. I can give $39.95, and you just do it and don't even think about it, and it's in and out of your mind. Some people in this room, you'll scrape together $3.95, okay? Some of you could give $33,950. Okay? It's not about the amount. It's about having a balance. I want to give you something that has worked for me. It's worked for Charlene and I for a long time. So it's this. Principles of this. Give, save, and live. Say it with me. Give, save, live. One more time. Give, save, and live. This is how you would do it. You'd start with giving. You have a plan to support the mission and vision of your local church, your church that you're a part of. That's Fair Creek, okay? You think about that, this place right here, you have a plan, okay, of how you're going to do it. And 10%, that's what the Old Testament principle was. But the 10%, if we're considering what New Testament giving is, it's grace giving. You give because of the grace of God in your life. That's probably not like 1%. Okay, 10% probably just the beginning of what we could give. And then the next one is save. Save, you have a plan to be prepared for saving for the future, okay? And 10%, that's a good place to begin. If you haven't already started that, and quite honestly, you could get it out of order real quick. Because this one, the next one, is the one that is usually the one we go to first. It's live. Just living everyday life. You have a plan to live life, support your family, and pay for your expenses, all right? The things that you want to do, the things that you are doing, right? Paying for groceries, which is a challenge these days, right? And then you think about this. That's about a 60% chunk. And then you say, oh, okay, Greg, that's funky math, okay? How much does that add up to? Anybody know? Okay, so it's 80. What about the 20%? What do we do? Where's this 20%? What do we do? Well, let me just tell you, you might have to say right now, that's impossible for us to have that kind of margin. But imagine if we all had that kind of margin in our life that we could actually give, save, and live differently. See? That's a kingdom mindset. It puts it in a perspective. Why? Because giving is the first thing we think of. We want to have a plan to support our local church. So during Be Rich, we're asking everybody to not change the way you give, but give an extra offering, something extra. And we're using this concept of the average Amazon purchase. And then everybody giggle. I heard everybody laughing about that, of how much, the average Amazon purchase is, all right? But we're just still using this $39.95 as the plan. That's about the average of what somebody will go on Amazon and buy something for, okay? I want you to think of it from this perspective. If everybody participated in this, some of us can give just one gift of $39.95. Some people could give more. But those are extra giving. That's extra on top of what we normally give, because we can do Be Rich, and if we all just decided to give everything we're ever going to give this month or whatever, or even to the end of this year, and we just gave it all to Be Rich, here's what would happen. We would come in here and the room would be very dark, because there are expenses for this group of people, this family. We have to take care of the building that we meet in. We have to take care of, in the neighborhood of about 14 different families that are serving around the world, including the church in Cuba, where there are 2 pastors that count on us. They count on us 100% of the income they're getting, because the challenge is what the church is paying their pastors. They can barely get by for a week out of a month. Now imagine that. So think about this. There are people counting on us. And then think about this. We've had opportunity after opportunity to reach into the community and help people. See, all of that's important. $39.95 is an extra that allows us to be extra generous to the people who are around us, projects that they need to accomplish. And I'll just tell you, I say it many times, but a generous church is made up of generous people. So this might be a sacrifice. Give up one of those Amazon orders. Give up, let's see, what would that be? About 2 cups of coffee at Starbucks today, right? All right. Give up that extra 1/8 of a tank of gas, All right? Give up that bread, milk, and eggs, all right? I mean, give up a few things, maybe sacrifice to give that extra gift. But every one of us need to have an idea of percentage giving, where we have a plan. Percentage giving is where we decide, before I ever get paid, I know what I'm giving. I know what I'm going to do. Some of us have not even considered that. It's important. Can I tell you, I gave you those principles of what can happen, but I'll just bring it back again to what Jesus said in the sermon, all right? Go back to this verse. It says, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. See, if we are able to consider his kingdom first, and that's the way we put our plan together, and I'll just tell you, I've not always done it with the give, save, live concept. And whenever I got it backwards, like live, and there was nothing else in my plan, I found that I ran out of money every time. Matter of fact, I was at times having to pull out a piece of plastic to get by. But when I finally, and thank goodness, God got through to my thick skull that I needed to do it differently. And I started making sure that my percentage giving was the first thing I considered. And then I saved. And then I lived on what was left. Not only did I have margin, but I was able to do extra things like a $39.95 offering. And I was able to do things for my kids. And I was able to do things for my neighbors. And I was able to do things that I never thought I could do. Matter of fact, I could lay down cash for things that I would never have thought that I could do. Things that I needed. That would have been in that category, right? Does it make sense? So I say to us, dream with me. Dream with me. If the church was able to do this, imagine what we could do. Here's what's happening. If we give $39.95, we've set a pretty big goal, all right? $50,000 we'd love to see as the Be Rich offering over the next month. The month of Saturday, all the way to the first Sunday of October. If we give those gifts of $39.95, you go on the app to give, or you write a check and put it in the offering boxes here, or you mail it into whatever you choose to do. All right. But you were to do this. Imagine if all of us together, we partnered together. We changed the way we think of it. We're not just members where there's benefits for us, but we're partnering together so we can accomplish things for the kingdom. Imagine what that would look like. We can provide a vehicle for the church in Cuba. They need it so badly. They're actually trying to get around a huge city, far bigger than Beaver Creek and Fairborn put together, on bicycles. Okay? And then imagine if we were to come together and partner together, and we were to help the Family Violence Prevention Center here in Greene County to serve families who are going through crisis. We were able to serve them in a way that just it changed everything for them. Imagine what that could be like. That's exactly what we do. Let me remind you, if you think first of his kingdom, here's a first step to do it. Okay? Guess what I'm going to tell you? Go to the church app, okay? And matter of fact, we'll put a QR code up here. If you haven't gotten it yet, this is the place to get it. This is the time to say, yeah, I'm partnering with Fair Creek. This is my family. If you're new, brand new here today, welcome to the family. We want you to be part of this with us. And ask anybody around you. I don't talk about money every other week, okay? And some of you are like, I can't believe we had to sit through money. I understand. I understand. Because right now, if there's anything that is hard to talk about, it's money. But I will tell you, the greatest thing that we have in our favor is the kingdom we serve and the kingdom that we're doing it for. And the kingdom is what's actually going to last more than anything else. So I want to encourage you. We need people to not only give the offering, but we need you to go on the app and sign up to be a part of one of those serving teams, like Matt said. We've got several nominations where we actually are going to go to people's homes and we're actually going to serve them. We're going to do things that they need done to help them. And what that'll do is that'll introduce them to the kingdom. It'll introduce them to Jesus when we love them well. We can do this. Can you dream with me? Can we do this? Is this something that we can be rich doing? I want to tell you, I'm so excited to see what God does with this. Because we have a Cuba trip coming up, I can just only imagine being able to take enough cash down there to give Maito so he could go out and purchase the car they need. He's been praying for this for 5 years. He didn't even tell me it was a need for a long time because he didn't want to burden us. Imagine what could happen. So I wanted to say this to you. The way I started, I say it again. I love you. I believe that together we can partner and we can be rich together, generous and willing to share. And imagine what can happen. Imagine what can happen when God does that in us. I want to pray for us. Would you pray with me? You know, Lord, I'm grateful. I am so grateful for these people. Thank you for this church. Lord, they put up with me. I'm so thankful for that. I'm thankful for the fact that together we could do so much. There's so much we could do, making an impact for the kingdom, making it a place where we are such a vital part of this community, that the community knows who cares. And they know there's something different because of this. God, I pray for every person in this room. We all come from different backgrounds, different careers, different things that we have sources of income into our lives. But God, there are principles that you've given us, easy to be able to follow and to live by. And God, I pray that you'll help us to do that. So God, we give this campaign to you. We give Be Rich to you. And as we start to talk about serving and loving and all this and what it is truly is to be a partner together as the church, imagine what that can bring to us. But we want so much more than what just this temporary life and these things that are around us can offer. You offer us eternity, and we're grateful for that. So, Lord, give us that dream, that vision of what that can look like. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.